Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Ameen. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Qalam conference. This is an initiative that we started earlier this year. The idea was to get the Qalam instructors together to share on a specific topic. We did our first conference on the Quran and connecting with the Quran. And today, inshallah, we are doing our second Qalam conference, and this time, based on the circumstances and kind of this interesting situation that we're all in, we're having to conduct this in a new way on a new medium. And inshallah, we're trying this together for the first time. So we'll be bringing the Qalam conference to you online. I'll be jumping in and out to transition to the next speakers and give you a brief introduction and bias as to what's to come. So inshallah, we'd like to start off this conference first by just going over the title. As you all know, we are in the month of Ramadan, and this is today marks the kind of anniversary or the day of the Battle of Badr. And today, inshallah, we're going to talk about the themes related to that. The title of the conference is Against All Odds, Lessons from the Battle of Badr. So inshallah, you'll be hearing from a bunch of our instructors and different students, and we'll have recitation along the way as well. And we'd like to begin today's program with Quran recitation by Brother Mustafa el-kilany, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ غدوت من أهلك تبوئ المؤمنين مقاعد للقتال والله سميع عليم إذ هم الطائفتان منكم أن تفشلا إذ هم الطائفتان منكم أن تفشلا والله وليهما وعلى الله فليتوكل المؤمنون ولقد نصركم الله ببدر وأنتم أذلة ولقد نصركم الله ببدر وأنتم أذلة فاتقوا الله لعلكم تشكرون إذ تقول للمؤمنين ألن يكفيكم أن يمدكم ربكم ربكم ب3,000 من الملائكة منزلين بلى 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 إن تصبروا وتتقوا ويأتوكم من فورهم هذا يمددكم ربكم إن تصبروا وتتقوا ويأتوكم من فورهم هذا يمددكم ربكم ب5,000 من الملائكة مسومين وما جعله الله إلا بشرى وما جعله الله إلا بشرى لكم ولتطمئن قلوبكم به وما جعله الله إلا بشرى لكم ولتطمئن قلوبكم به وما النصر إلا من عند الله العزيز الحكيم صدق الله العظيم سبحانك وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
Barakallahu feekum, Mustafa. Inshallah, we'd like to start today's program, the first kind of official session, with a format that you've seen us do a few times leading up to the month of Ramadan. It's something that we call the Qalam Hangout, and that's where we have a few of our teachers sitting together and discussing a specific topic. And the idea here is that it's a little bit different than a lecture because as instructors discuss different things, different topics come up, and it's a little more, free in that manner. So today, inshallah, in our hangout, we will have Sheikh Abdul Nasser Jangda, which a lot of you are familiar with. He is, one of the founders of Qalam Institute, and he's, behind the scenes, he's been doing this for a very long time. He's one of the main instructors at the Qalam Seminary. I'm not going to give you a long introduction about him because if you're here, you probably already know who he is. Next up, we have Ustad Abdurrahman Murphy, which you've also probably heard about. He's, mashallah, a student of the Qalam Seminary, now an instructor as well. He runs the Roots Community Initiative, which is doing a lot of great work, mashallah. And lastly, we have Mufti Hussein Kamani, who has been teaching at the Qalam Seminary for the last few years, and he's been involved with Qalam even before that, teaching different traveling courses all around the country. So without further ado, we have Sheikh Abdul Nasser, Ustad Abdurrahman Murphy, and Mufti Hussein Kamani. Welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. I got the Ramadan voice going on right now, right? So
the Ramadan voice is usually at Fajr, Sheikh.
No, for me it's because I can't drink water, because I'm fasting.
No, yeah. Oh, mashallah.
Inshallah.
Subhanallah.
So inshallah, I think we're getting Mufti Kamani on in just a minute, inshallah. But I wanted to start off by, of course, welcoming everyone who's watching the program, number one. And then number two, using this opportunity with all these people here as my witnesses before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the month of Ramadan, as my witness that you... I have a formal complaint that I'd like to make and I'd like to lodge here, and that is you've been baking what shouldn't even be called cookies. It's just it's a ridiculous excuse to just eat chocolate. You should just take a bag of chocolate chips, put them into a bowl, melt them down, and eat it with a spoon.
Yeah.
No, I feel like you need to come back. Why are you attacking my brother over here?
So
we're all doing our bets out here.
So Ustad makes these cookies. They're just inside is just completely filled with chocolate, and then
and walnuts. Please, I'm a healthy person. There's walnuts.
There's some nuts in there as well.
Yeah.
And then he takes pictures of them and sends them to me while I'm fasting.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And I send them to you. I always get your attention by saying, "Hey, have you seen this real quick?" As if it's something like really important.
Like, hey, have you seen this real quick? And I'm like, maybe he's going to show me like a page from, like one of the books he's reading or something like that. And then there's this giant cookies being split open with all this food.
I'm like, hey, major coronavirus update. And then I send it to you, and it's like, I just bake cookies.
So, but alhamdulillah, so, inshallah, I'm still waiting, but
I will, inshallah. There's a lot of time left in Ramadan, and it's, just like Ibn Taymiyyah said, Ramadan's about finishing strong. So,
it'll be my Eid gift.
Inshallah. I'm going to drop it off in your driveway and then walk away.
Oh man, alhamdulillah. So how have things been for up until now, Ramadan wise, particularly activities wise, programming wise? How has everything been going on your end?
Alhamdulillah. I just heard Sheikh Yasser Burjas say the other day that I think he thinks, or he doesn't think, he knows he's been busier. And I think that without a doubt that's been the case for myself. Probably for you too, Sheikh. I mean, it's just been like nonstop, because it'll be, obviously all the stuff that we're doing with Qalam, alhamdulillah, all the classes that we're teaching and all the different, the reflection every night. And then also midday, just as everyone's waking up, right? At 2 p.m. we have the 2 p.m. we have the characteristics from the Quran, which I think is a really cool series, alhamdulillah. So we're doing that. And then on top of that, we have, all the stuff that we're doing at Roots. Oh my goodness, mashallah. Speaking of Roots, you see, Mufti Kamani loves Roots so much that he only appears when I mention it.
Oh man.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
You got fancy with the setup. Look at that.
I know, man. Mashallah. Mashallah.
And meanwhile,
both of you guys have your last names. I don't. See, this is interesting.
You don't have a last name or a proper place to be streaming from.
I know. I mean, well, we're transferring this guest room into an office, so this is all I got.
Oh, mashallah.
But it's okay. But yeah, so alhamdulillah, we were talking Mufti Sahib about how Ramadan has been this year very, obviously unique, but also in its own way very busy. So many different things going on. And then, trying to do as many programs as we can for different people. There's a lot of masajid that are reaching out that just want to have one program. I know Qari Noman up in Milwaukee, I did a program for their community. And obviously it's in the technological sense, it's very easy because it's just sitting at the desk. But alhamdulillah, there's a lot of preparation that has to go into it, and there's still a lot of reading and, developing the lecture, the course, or whatever. So either way, alhamdulillah, it's been a blessing. This Ramadan has been really unique. Mufti Saab, how's your Ramadan been?
Alhamdulillah, it's been good. It's been very productive. I definitely echo the same sentiments of Ustad Abdul Rahman. It's been busy. It's been an opportunity to really just reflect. I think I definitely miss the barakah of doing ibadah together as a team, as a group in the masjid. But there is a new sort of finding that you come across when you are pushed to do your ibadah alone at home too.
I think the question that everyone really is curious about for this Ramadan, Mufti Saab, is
Go ahead, I'm fasting, so that's why I have to be careful.
I'm fasting too. I don't know why you guys keep saying
I want to remind you that I'm fasting so that you remember you're fasting.
I'm fasting.
You show some mercy. Go ahead.
Alhamdulillah, I'm fasting. Look, I think the question that everybody has, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, is, do your children work out till 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. with you?
I work them out until suhoor.
But it's amazing actually, because what you said yesterday was like, oh, his push-up form is improving.
Yeah.
And it's cool because man, it's been like 2.5 weeks, and you're gonna see those, like, mashallah, those improvements now, those adjustments. And I'm sure they're loving it. I'm sure they're enjoying it.
Oh, they love it. I kid you not. Like, for them, it's an activity. It's something we do together.
Yeah,
I don't really pan the whole thing, but my wife's doing it. I'm doing it. My daughter's there. It's a whole family. Everyone is doing everything. So it's really enjoyable that as a family we're doing it. It's not.
It happened to me the other day. I was working out in my garage, and Musa just came in, and he picked up these little 3-pound dumbbells, and then he starts doing it. And then, like, when I do my push-ups, he just lays on the floor and says it's push-up time. And I'm like, that's not what Baba's doing.
Yeah, with us, usually after Asr time, before Maghrib, we just go for a walk and a little bit of a jog or run outside. So it's Ramadan, so it hasn't been consistent in every day. But yesterday we went out, yesterday or day before we went out, and we were out. We did about 3 miles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the kids were really upset with me. They came back and they complained to my wife. They were like, he took us out for so long, for so far. We're fasting. We're thirsty now. This is not right. He should not be able to do this. And I was like, listen, you will walk as much as it tells you to walk. You understand?
So good.
And then I'm like, inni sa'im.
MashaAllah.
So, alhamdulillah, we had a topic, the theme of the overall online program and the conference that we brought to y'all today was, inspired by the Battle of Badr. So we were talking about it earlier, Mufti Kamani and Ustad Abdul Rahman and myself, we were talking about it. And one thing that we wanted to do was something that we really focus on at Qalam is that, of course, we have a lot of in-depth Islamic studies and knowledge and things like that we do. But at the same time, we don't like to assume anything on behalf of the people that are listening or watching and tuning in. And we like to make sure that we can all have a conversation together. So I was going to start off by asking Mufti Kamani to give us a little bit of a synopsis and a little bit of a quick breakdown as to, if somebody's watching or listening and they keep hearing Badr, Battle of Badr, this and that, like, what are we exactly talking about? What does that mean?
Yeah, so the Battle of Badr is one of the most significant battles that took place in Islamic history. It definitely wasn't the first battle that took place, but it was surely one of the greater ones. Okay. Another thing about this battle that I'll tell you before we even get into any of the narrative is that it wasn't intentional from the get-go. The Muslims didn't go to Badr thinking that they were going to have a full-fledged war and this was going to be the big showdown. It was for a different purpose. Now, so in order to understand what's going on in Badr, the Muslims lived in Makkah Mukarramah for 13 years. Those 13 years were very hard. A lot of torture, people were killed, people had to leave their land and move to different countries, different continent. Finally, the torture became so unbearable and the environment was almost suffocating, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or should I say granted permission to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to migrate from Mecca to Medina. When Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam arrives in Medina, the ideal scenario would have been everyone move on with your life. Meccans, you do your thing, we do our thing, go your own way. But the Meccans weren't happy with that. They felt that now that the Muslims were in Medina, the Muslims would amass an army and attack Makkah Mukarramah. That was their fear. The Muslims had never expressed any such intention. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam never said any such thing, but this was cooking in their mind. So what they started doing was investing in warfare. They started putting a lot of money together for a bank account, which would then be utilized for any weapons that would be needed to launch a full-blown attack against Medina. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had no intention of fighting, but that didn't mean Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was naive. He was anything but that. Very intelligent, very sharp. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam had his hand on the pulse of everything that was going on. And it's beautiful because that doesn't take away from him being a merciful servant of Allah. That doesn't take away from him being compassionate and being a great worshiper. Like, he was an all-rounded person. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was informed that there was a caravan of Abu Sufyan. They call it the caravan of Abu Sufyan because this leader of Quraysh, the leader of the people of Mecca, his name was Abu Sufyan. He was one of the leaders. He was at the head of this caravan. And he went to Syria, which is north of Medina. And he went there for some business. He was a businessman. He was returning back, and the Prophet ﷺ heard the caravan was on its way back. And that's when he set off with a group of 300 companions to intercept that caravan. Long story short, the caravan kind of dodges the Prophet ﷺ's interception. They send a message to Quraysh. The Quraysh hear that someone tried to attack one of their caravans, and it was the Muslims, and they were already ticked off with the Muslims as it was. They felt like the Muslims leaving Mecca and going to Medina was a big slap on their face, because the Arabs were all about honor, and someone leaving their home and going to another home, massive slap. So they decided to just, take an army that was probably one of the strongest armies they could put together and just steamroll the Muslims. They came out with 1,000 people strong. They came with their tools of celebration. The women came to sing. They took the confetti with them. They took animals to slaughter on the way there so they can party on the way there, party on the way back. And they show up to Badr. The Muslims were 1/3 of their army. And the Prophet ﷺ consulted the companions on what they should do, whether they should confront the army or not. Because the people who joined him didn't join for a war. They came to intercept a caravan. These are two different things. And the Prophet ﷺ wasn't a person to force people into decisions. You guys tell me what you want to do, because if I have your buy-in, we can do it together. And everyone was quiet. And then some people started saying, "O Messenger of Allah, we're with you, we're with you." And the people who originally spoke up were the Muhajirun. And this is important because in today's discussion, we're going to talk about the Muhajir and the Ansar, the role they played in supporting the Prophet ﷺ, specifically in the Battle of Badr. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, thank you, as the Muhajirun said they support him. And these people supported him anyway. It was the Ansar Nabi ﷺ was waiting for, and then they said, "O Messenger of Allah, ta'ani, like, do you mean us, what we want?" And the Prophet ﷺ then smiled and said to them, "Yes, what are you guys planning? Do you guys think you'll join us in the Battle of Badr if we go through with this?" Because, again, there's some background here. The Ansar were not obligated to get involved in any offense. They were only required to defend Medina Munawwara. Now they were outside of Medina. They were far. They were by Badr, right? In a car, it's like a 2-hour drive, 1.5-2-hour drive. So they're far out. And the Ansar said, "We're in." And they said, "We will not say to you what Banu Israel said to their prophet, that you and your Lord go and fight. We're with you." And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved that statement of loyalty so much that he remembered it for the rest of his life.
Mufti Saab, do you remember this exact, not the exact, but like the words that Sa'd bin Mu'adh said? They're so powerful.
Are you talking about "La naqulu kama qala," what is it?
Bani Israel.
He quoted that ayah of the Quran. I don't remember the exact words beyond that. If you have them, you can pull them up.
I think Sa'd bin Mu'adh, I just got done teaching this, so it like really resonated. But the emphaticness of Sa'd bin Mu'adh when he spoke, and he was one of the leaders of the Ansar, he said, if you were to walk into the ocean in front of us,
Yes, yes.
then we would follow you. Like even if you just plunged right into the ocean, we would follow you because we're just with you the whole way. SubhanAllah.
This man, Sa'd bin Mu'adh, was something else, man.
Remarkable.
His loyalty to the Prophet when it came down to crunch time, was mi'ah. Like
and Ibn Mas'ud said about that, he goes, I've never been jealous of anyone more than Sa'd bin Mu'adh on that day. Like I wish that I said that.
And the interesting thing about Sa'd bin Mu'adh is that when you read about him and kind of what he's saying at Badr, and then what he's saying, how he's conducting himself in Medina, and then, of course, how he handles the whole situation at, the Battle of the Trench and Banu Qurayza and all of that, you kind of get this impression like this is a very kind of senior, esteemed statesman. But the thing is that he was very young. He was very young. At the time of the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ, I think he was in his late 20s. And it was very unheard of. It was very strange for someone that young to be in such a position of leadership. But he was such an exceptional person that even before Islam, his people had made him a leader, even though he was so young.
That is amazing. That's
all right. I didn't mean to cut you off, Mufti Saab. That statement will always stay with me, subhanAllah.
This is I enjoy it when we kind of tell the story together. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam gets excited. A lot of dua, again, such a powerful night. Just the duas that he made that night, because this is showdown. The army shows up and they have 1,000 and they're armed to the right to their neck. These guys are armed, all head, everything. And the Sahaba are standing there that came to stop a caravan. It's kind of like these guys came for a picnic and the guys in front of them came for like a real football NFL game. And they're looking at them like, oh my God, these guys have the full kit. They have cleats. These guys have like actual headgear. Look at these guys. They have shoulder pads. And the Sahaba are standing there and they have, they don't have much on, to be honest with you. Some narrations actually say there were some of them that had sticks in their hands. They had that the branches they broke from the tree that they were standing in line. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them to sleep. And it was a miracle that they went to sleep that night because of the fear that they had in their heart from their enemies. That were these guys standing on the other side were people that had tortured them for over a decade. And they go to sleep that night. Bilal radiallahu anhu wakes up. He calls the adhan. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam leads the companions in prayer. He then lines them up. And as they lined up for battle, he then advises them, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha laqitum fi'atan fathbutu wadhkurullaha kathiran la'allakum tuflihun. That stand strong, fathbutu. These moments when your heart is shaking and trembling as you look at your enemy, with them being 3 times your size in number. Udhkurullaha kathira. Remember Allah. Don't think about them. Don't look at their numbers. You should know that as long as your Allah was with you, there's nothing that can happen to you. And they can't do anything.
SubhanAllah, one thing that I think about is that when we look at the Battle of Badr, these were their neighbors, and these were, even some of them, they were like family friends.
Yeah.
They were looking across the battlefield. So it's not like they were taking on an enemy that they had never heard of, or and sometimes when it comes to the anonymity of somebody, there might be a little bit of confidence, like, you don't, these guys, like they don't stand a chance, or but now they're looking at the people that have been the cause of their pain for like 13 years. And imagine looking, there's a lot of conversation, especially nowadays, about, bringing justice to people who have been oppressed, and the impact on the heart of a person when they see the person that oppressed them. What that does, for example, in modern news today, like if a woman has been oppressed by a man, if a woman has been assaulted by a man, and they say, like, when they bring them into the courtroom, or when they look at them, like just the sheer pain that they have to relive that experience that they've been through, right? Whatever kind of assault it may have been. May Allah Ta'ala, give so much strength to the people who have been through any kind of situation. And then you read about, for example, Bilal, when he sees Umayyah bin Khalaf in the battlefield,
freaks out.
He has to relive his trauma. This is the guy that wanted to crush you in the middle of the hot desert before Abu Bakr came and saved you, freed you. So it's not like they're looking at people that like they don't know. Like they're looking at these, like the Prophet was looking at Abu Jahl. Bilal is looking at Umayyah bin Khalaf. Like they're all looking at these people and they're like, So it also adds to that stress. It adds to that uncertainty. Like, these are the people. Can we really beat these guys? These guys beat us down for 13 years. Like, can we really beat these guys? I always like imagine that pre-battle scenario. SubhanAllah.
Yeah,
and you're talking about the familiarity. When the Battle of Badr starts and they have that, hadani khasmani ikhtasamu fi rabbihim, right? They have that initial kind of showdown, mubaraza, where a few people come out and they have like kind of an initial showdown.
Yeah.
Initially, when the leaders of the Quraysh come out, 3 of the Ansar go out there because they're so good that the Quraysh are like, "Who are you?" They're like, "I don't know you." And actually, they said something really rude. Yeah. They said something really mean. They said, "We can't fight you. Y'all are way lower than us."
Yeah, bring out somebody that we
send out somebody in our own class of people.
SubhanAllah.
And then
I want to bring out our equals.
Yeah, our equals. But you know what? Be careful what you wish for, because they got Ali and Hamza. That's what they got.
Oh,
they got Ali and Hamza. They got 2 lions going out there.
Destroyed.
Yep.
Yeah, and so the Sahaba, they engaged in this battle. And it's interesting because even though all the odds were against them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down angels. And not 1,000, 2,000, thousands of them came down. And they were all musawwim, they were all marked. The companions would look at them and they would know that was an angel. And the scholars, they say, because they were wearing turbans. They would look at the people with turbans and they knew that they hadn't seen these faces before. And they actually point at the place. They say, the Sahaba, they say, this is the place that we would see the angels coming down. And they would tell their kids, who then told their kids, who then told their kids. And a few years back when we went to Badr with the Qalam Sirah group, there were people that were showing us. They pointed at the area. Do you remember, Sheikh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually right now I'm going to send this link. There's a brother who runs Islamic Landmarks. It's an amazing Twitter account and website. Sheikh, what's his name again? I forget his name.
Ashraf.
We met him in Palestine, and he actually compiled, I think obviously because today is the commemoration of the Battle of Badr, in terms of the date, the calendar date, he compiled like pictures of these places and explained what happened here. And so he says, like, this is the place where the Prophet ﷺ took the shura of the the Sahaba, whether or not they should go. This is the place and where the angels came. So I'm going to go ahead and have that sent out to our social media team at Qalam, and anyone who's watching. If you follow us on our social media platforms like Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, it'll be there shortly, inshallah. So you can look at these pictures yourself.
Yeah, and so the thousands of angels are coming in the battlefield, and the whole battle just flips. Again, there are so many incidents that could be covered, but I'm going to leave them. Maybe some of the other shuyukh, inshallah, throughout the day will cover them. And I think at the end of it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us all a lesson, that don't be intimidated by numbers. As the Quran says, كَم مِّن فِئَةٍ قَلِيلَةٍ غَلَبَتْ فِئَةً كَثِيرَةً بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. How many times has it been that a small group has overcome a big group? And this is regarding Dawood alayhi salam and Jalut. And a narration tells us that the number of people standing by the side of Dawood alayhi salam that day, it was the same number of people that stood by Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam on the day of Badr. So there's a lot of there's similarity there. Beautiful. Now, the one thing that I wanted to really highlight here is that there's a question. How did these people gain victory in the Battle of Badr? What was it about them? I mean, what kind of protein shake were they having? What kind of workout routine did they have? What kind of yoga routine did they have? Were these people like super like loose? Were they good at swords? And I'm sure a lot of these things may be true, but when the Quran talks about their characteristics that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fell in love with, which ended up being the reason why those angels came. Angels don't come for protein shakes. Angels come when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves someone, and then that person calls Allah. When they say, Ya Allah, we want you. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam made that dua. He called Allah with everything. He threw it all in. If you read that dua, it was all in. Ya Allah, I want you tomorrow. We have to win this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes through. So this is where I wanted to, maybe ask Sheikh Abdul Nasir, that when we look at the Quran, are there any verses specifically about the Sahaba from the Battle of Badr? Is there a chapter that talks about Battle of Badr, first of all? And the second thing is, where in the Quran can we find, or maybe if not in the Quran, maybe let's say it's not in the Quran, are there any hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that tell us about the characteristics of the companions from the Battle of Badr and what was it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fell in love with? Maybe we can replicate that. Maybe we can find meaning in those characteristics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the central place in the Quran where the Battle of Badr is spoken about in a very focused and concentrated way is actually Surah Al-Anfal, the 8th surah of the Quran. So in Surah Al-Anfal, the 8th surah from the beginning of the Mus'haf, even though the Battle of Badr is alluded to earlier, namely in Surah Ali Imran, وَلَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِبَدْرٍ وَأَنْتُمْ أَذِلَّةٌ. But the very specific focused narrative of Badr is actually mentioned there in the 8th surah of the Quran called Surah Al-Anfal. And it's actually quite fascinating. Even like in the Sira podcast, because I think I took about 6, 7 sessions, 8 sessions to go through all of Badr. And then I had a dedicated session where the first almost half, the first third of Surah Al-Anfal, which basically just talks about Badr, I read through it and then translated it and then kind of, highlighted how we could see the narrative of Badr laid out and being addressed within the surah itself. And right in the very beginning of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does actually tell us about, a few of the qualities of these people of Badr that they possessed. Like first off the bat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls them true believers. And then, so it's an interesting way, right? Because this is something we talk about all the time. And that is that these were the qualities of the people of Badr, but Allah interjects the word true believers in between to kind of show the segue so that we can also have a connection to this. Because if these were just the qualities of the people of Badr, then that's just a historical fact and that's great. But Allah says the people of Badr were true believers, and true believers have the following qualities. So that means even though we're not the people of Badr, but we can be true believers. So we can still plug ourselves into that particular system. And the first thing Allah mentions is إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُم, that when God is mentioned, when the name of Allah is said, when God is mentioned, then their hearts shake and tremble. What's a good way to explain that, Ustad?
I mean, I would just say that, the word that comes to mind is, I actually texted you this the other day, like to be rattled. To be rattled is not like a bad thing, right? It's just, I think, the impact of when a person realizes the awe and the magnitude of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That so when Allah's name is mentioned, it's not that their hearts tremble from necessarily only fear, because Allah ta'ala is so unique in his oneness that we can't compare how our emotions feel about Allah with how we feel about people. A lot of times people do that. They say, oh, you fear Allah, and then we imagine how we fear people. And it's not that kind of fear, it's not that kind of love. It's not that kind of hope. There's such a unique emotional relationship that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when a person's heart...
Yeah. Sorry, keyboard. I apologize.
I was going to say, when a person's heart rattles because of Allah, when a person's heart shakes because of Allah, there's like so many different emotions, complex emotions that are involved in that. Similar to like, when a person has a child and like now this whole gateway of emotions is opened up that they never thought they would feel, So with Allah, it's unique. I think it's when a person hears Allah's name, they think about, for example, all the moments in their life where Allah came through for them. They think about all the moments where they maybe disappointed him. They think about all the moments that they have hope for what they need from Allah in the future. Like it's a complex, almost like a accumulation of all these different pieces. And as a result of that, your heart starts to wake up a little bit. Your heart starts to shake.
I was just going to literally share some of those examples that you mentioned, beautiful examples. I think of it kind of like an excitement, a jitteriness that you feel on the morning of Eid when you're going to Eid, or a person feels as the days of marriage, if you're getting married, approached, or you're some big event, you get really excited. And that's the sort of feeling and excitement that these people have.
Yeah,
absolutely. So this is verse number 2 from chapter 8, from surah number 8, verse number 2. The second thing that it mentions is وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا, that when the signs of God or the verses of Allah, like the Quran, or even the signs of God in the world are pointed out to them and are highlighted to them, they are shown to them, it increases them in faith. it increases them in belief. What exactly, like, how to exactly practically understand that? Like, what does that mean for our context?
Ustad?
I mean, I would just say that realizing that, there are certain things based on the health of a person's faith, based on the health of a person's heart, their spiritual heart, we all respond to the same things in different ways.
Yeah.
People, subhanAllah, Allah Ta'ala says, Allah Ta'ala says,
في قلوبهم مرض.
no, the other in Surah Al-Baqarah, when he's talking about the example of the gnat or the mosquito, يضل به كثيرا ويهدي به كثيرا.
Yeah. لا يستحي أن يضرب مثلا ما بعوضة فما فوقها.
Right. So Allah Ta'ala, He mentions in Surah Al-Baqarah, like, we give examples, right, of even these small insects or things that are even above that, and subhanAllah, He says that for people, when they see these examples, they ask, what did Allah Ta'ala mean by this example? And He's referencing the hypocrites or the kuffar, and when they are challenging Allah, like, how could a great God bring up an example of like such a small insignificant creature, right? And then Allah Ta'ala says, like, we can bring up whatever example we want, and then He gives this very powerful line where He says, يُضِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَمَا يُضِلُّ بِهِ إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ. That a lot of people, this same example, a lot of people will be misguided by it. It'll be the source of them falling off the rails. And a lot of people, it'll actually strengthen their resolve. It'll strengthen their faith. Now, what's the difference between those two people is that one of those groups had, unfortunately, a horrible, diseased, infected heart before the example was given. They suffered from just, chronic serial disobedience of Allah Ta'ala with no regret, no remorse, right? They were from the fasiqeen. So when Sheikh, the ayah that you recited or mentioned, when I think of that, what I think of is, when a person walks up to a major challenge in life, when a person engages with something where there's complete and total uncertainty, right? Badr was like total uncertainty. You see the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam making dua and shedding tears to the point where even his garment is falling off of his shoulders, or the desperation. How does the heart of a believer respond to that situation? And actually, in my seerah class that I'm teaching, it's interesting because as they approach the battlefield, the Quraysh, who were very confident, they brought animals and performers and music and everything, right? They were super confident. As they approach, what happens? They start to doubt themselves, right? And Utbah bin Rabi'ah, he starts to tell people like, hey, blame it on me. Call me a coward. Let's go. Let's get out of here, right? And the Prophet ﷺ even says, he asks Hamza, he says, who's that guy walking through the lines? It looks like he's trying to convince people or make an announcement or something. And Hamza radiallahu anh, he says that's Utbah, and he's trying to convince people to go home. And the Prophet ﷺ says he's a smart man, right? So, and these were the same believers that, again, remember when he asked the Muhajirun, the Ansar, should we go? There was some silence, right? There's some uncertainty. There's no doubt. It's not shameful to say that they were scared, right? Absolutely. But as they approach the battlefield, right, both sides are approaching. One of them, their group, the hearts start to become actually more convinced, and the other one, the hearts start to fall apart, right? Same moment, different responses. So from the believers, we approach these moments in life, and these are moments that people would look at us and they would say, how on earth can a person go through this and come out stronger in faith? You meet someone who loses a loved one or gets a diagnosis or loses their job or something hits them, and normally this would break somebody, right? It's a human thing. And then you meet that person and they're like, alhamdulillah ala kulli hal, like, oh, I'm just happy that Allah Ta'ala. And you're like inspired by their faith because what they went through, actually, it certified them.
SubhanAllah. Amazing. The next characteristic, وَعَلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. We're still in verse number 2. And only upon their Lord do they maintain trust and dependence and reliance. Mufti said there's like always the classic question here, right, that everyone always has, and that is, whenever we talk about only depending and relying upon Allah, then it's kind of like, well, what does that exactly mean, and how do I implement that in real life? Because then it creates all these, questions about, if I do have people that I call when I need some help, or I do have these things that I rely upon, or I have a bank account that I check regularly, does that mean I don't have reliance upon my Lord?
Absolutely not. I think in order to understand tawakkul in this context, you have to look at the full verse. Because the first part, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises them for being people who love Him, who had an intimate relationship with Him. They knew their Allah. Wajilat qulubum, their hearts would tremble, if that's one way of translating it, or their hearts would shake. They would get excited. Their hearts would be excited just by the mention of Allah. Then the second part is they had a meaningful relationship with the Quran. Their faith would increase. And Allah is revealing these verses at a time of battle. So it's as if these people are terrified of the possible outcome because what's standing in front of them doesn't look favorable. But when these people read the Quran, they see the promises of Allah that have been made to people before who had a similar situation. So even in our lives, there are times that we will face certain scenarios where things may not look that they're going like they're going to go well. But read the Quran and trust it. Let your faith increase. And as your faith increases, ala rabbihim yatawakkalun, go into battle and trust your Lord. And it's not like these companions went into the battlefield with no sword. It's not like these companions were praised for tawakkul because they went in the battlefield with no armor on. These people did their best at that time, which was less than the Quraysh, but it was still something. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told a companion who had nothing in his hand, go pick up a stick. Don't walk into the battlefield empty-handed. He told the companions to sleep at night. Why? Because that's the tadbir. That's the strategy. Everyone needs to be well rested for tomorrow's battle. It was Ramadan. There are many narrations that tell us that during the actual battle, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told the companions not to fast. While other narrations do suggest. Some narrations say, minna sa'im or minna muftir. That some of us were fasting, others were not fasting. So you have all those narrations there. So these people, their reliance wasn't silly reliance, were lazy reliance, where you don't do anything, you don't do your part, and you're like, it's all going to work out. That's a lazy attitude. That's not how things work. Earlier today, I was talking to my son about how he needed to revise his Juz Amma. And I made it clear to him that unless you sit down and do the revision, it's not going to get better. Like, there's no other way. You can't just say it's going to get better one day. That's not how it works. You're going to have to do your part. And that's exactly what they did. They did their part spiritually in terms of internal development. They did their part spiritually in terms of externally doing actions, and that's what the next verse talks about. And then because they did their part, they fortified their ground by internally developing themselves spiritually, engaging with their ibadah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, when it came to their external affairs, I was there for them.
Subhanallah. And then the next verse number 3, exactly as you just said, الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. They establish prayer, and from what we have given them, they spend. I've always found the verbiage with when Allah talks about how to spend and what spending in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in charity and good causes. The verbiage that is being used here, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, same one in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah. I've always found it very fascinating because in simple Arabic, like a simple sentence structure in Arabic, would be يُنْفِقُونَ مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُم. But Allah says مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, and even or it could just actually, to be very honest, in very, very simple Arabic, it could just simply be يُنْفِقُونَ. They spend. But
yeah, it's almost like the spending isn't the point.
No, they spend from that which we gave them. And then مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ, specifically from what we gave them, they spend.
That's the point. So
it's really powerful, where it creates this notion that you are clinging so tightly, right? يَقْبِضُونَ أَيْدِيَهُمْ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَنَسِيَهُمْ, right? Like you are وَلَا تَجْعَلْ يَدَكَ مَغْلُولَةً إِلَىٰ عُنُقِكَ. You are clinging so tightly to this wealth, it ain't yours. Allah is saying, I gave it to you. I gave it to you so that you could feed yourself, you could feed your family. Well, you've been fed and your family's been fed. Now there's more work to do out there. There's more good work to do out there in the world. Now I gave it to you so that you can actually be a part of that good that's going on, not so that you can sit and hoard it on the side. And I'm presenting it in a very harsh way because I'm admonishing myself, I'm advising myself, but it's always fascinated me the way Allah said it.
I was just telling yesterday, I was on a event that was fundraising for one of the humanitarian groups that, mashallah, comes from the Muslim community that does a lot of fundraising for, schools and wells and orphanages, mashallah. And, we were talking about the conversation between tasdeeq and sidq of iman and sadaqah and the relationship, and how Abu Bakr as-Siddiq is a person that always shocked me. His story always blows me away, right? And Mufti Saab, you taught an entire class on his his story and his characteristics. But one of the things that I always love about Abu Bakr as-Siddiq is that, like, even in Badr, he's the one that reassures the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is begging Allah, making dua, and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, like, they're friends, right? They're best friends. And so he comes up to him and he takes his arms, like, lovingly, and he says, "Ya Rasulullah, Allah will not let you down, or Allah will not let you down." And of course, when you talk about levels of faith, Abu Bakr is not above that of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but you need those companions, you need those people that can reinforce. And Abu Bakr, his level of sidq in his iman is so high. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Anta Siddiq" to him, that it's amazing to see that level of faith. And you know what? He was also known, not coincidentally, for being the one who was most willing to give, being the one who was most willing to part with his wealth. So there's a relationship. If somebody wants to, like, feel what tasdeeq of iman feels like, proving it, right? Tasdeeq means to verify something. If you want to verify your faith, if you want to prove your faith, then sadaqah is one of the quickest ways to get there. Ma naqasa min al-mal sadaqah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that it'll never decrease your wealth. And when you give charity, when you give in sadaqah, it's almost like you're telling Allah, وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا, that Allah tells you love money. Who doesn't love money? They've done studies where they say that showing people pictures of money can release the same neurochemicals in their brain that, like, eating food, and it's a very base thing that Allah has created.
That
and
experiment,
especially if you're Mayman.
That experiment was done on a Mayman for sure. They showed a Mayman guy a picture of his kids, and there was like nothing, like flat land. And then they showed the Mayman guy like a dollar bill, and his brain was like,
yeah. And so if a person wants to prove to Allah, right? How do you prove to someone you love them? How do you prove, guys? How do you prove something? You give up something that they know you love for them, right? So if you want to prove to your family you love them, right, your wife or your kids, then you give up something that those people know that you love. They know you love it, but you give it up for them, right? And when you give it up for them and they see that you're giving it up for them, now their hearts become soft and they become convinced, oh, he really does love me. She really does love, like, I know how much they're attached to that. And they left it to spend time with me or to be with me. So now with Allah tells us you love money. So when you give charity, you're telling Allah, oh Allah, you know I love this wealth. You created me. Like, you created. But Allah, I'm going to give it away because I love you more. And I don't want there to be a single shred of doubt in the world that I love you more than this money.
Allah.
Right? And so subhanAllah, like, this idea of, like, because going to battle, you had to spend your own money, by the way, right? Going to battle, they had to bring their resources. They had to invest their own wealth. It wasn't like your business paying for your first class flight, for your work, you're a consultant. You had to spend from your own wealth to go and defend the community. And so this was a true test of faith. And that's why Allah Ta'ala always mentions true faith is with giving up your wealth, right? True faith is with giving up some of your wealth. May Allah Ta'ala give us that, inshallah.
I mean, and I had a, Sheikh, if I can share something on this idea of sadaqah. First of all, I think it's beautiful that you pointed that out. There, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala focuses on what we have given. I was thinking of that exact same thing when you were reading the ayah, وَعَلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. And I love the way you translated it. Sheikh translated it as only on their Lord. I think you used the word only, that hasab.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that, because ala rabbihim yatawakkalun, the sentence structures, it's unique and it's special. So the emphasis clearly is on mimma razaqnahum. And Sheikh Ustad Murphy just said this so eloquently, but there's a part of it that's coming to my mind, an example that might help drive the point home for some of you. The word sadaqah is derived from sidq, which is to be truthful. So what's the truth here? What truth is sadaqah speaking? And the question is that, do actions speak or do words speak?
Actions, yeah.
Because people, they think that words are what speak, but Allah Azza wa Jalla says, "Min al-mu'minina rijalun sadaqu ma ahadullah alayh." There are people who speak, who fulfill their covenant, their promise to Allah. And then there's another verse that comes to my mind, which really draws this image, that Allah Azza wa Jalla says, "Ash-shaytanu ya'idukum al-faqr." You earn wealth, okay? You have $50,000, and you're telling yourself that if I give to this institution 5,000 first, let's say, I'm going to be 5,000 less in my account. Now, no one's asking you to be irresponsible here. Just to be very clear, fulfill your rights to your family first. This is what we want you to do.
And even the story of Ka'b bin Malik. Remember when at the end, when he's repenting, he tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "I'm going to give everything away," and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Give some," right?
And so you think to yourself that, okay, if I give, I'll be 5,000 down, and that's when Shaitan comes in and begins to whisper that, "Hey, man, you sure you want to be 5,000 down? With that 5,000, new laptop, new phone, new decoration, new sofa, get yourself a new TV, Xbox is around the corner, the new PS is around the corner. There's a lot of things you can do. When Corona's over, you might want to go for a vacation, get yourself a new car. You've dieted for 30 days. You might want to there's so many ideas that are just going around in your mind, and Shaitan begins to tell you, bad idea, don't spend. And on the other hand, Wallahu ya'idukum maghfiratan minhu wa fadla. Allah is promising, trust me, I gave you the wealth, give it to me. Let's show Shaitan how wrong he is, and I will give you so much more. Just trust me, just do this. And at that moment, there is a question, where does our truth lie? Where is the truth of Iman? That we said we believed in Allah. We said we believe in the verse that Allah gave it to us. Now the question is the promise of Shaitan more tempting, or is the promise of Allah more tempting? And for a believer, 10 out of 10, it's the promise of Allah. But
Mufti Kamani's motivational words were so powerful, it tripped out it tripped out our program coordinator, and he put up the donation tracker right away.
He spoke the fundraising into existence. Yeah, sorry guys. Abdullah Jagna was just trying to send the least classy hint of all time.
Least subtle
hint of all time.
Abdullah Jagna is many things. He is not subtle. Subtlety is not one of the things.
He just puts up dollar signs. MashaAllah. No, but I think it's the lesson that I want everyone to walk away with is exactly what Mufti Kamani asked. That question, what truth are we proving, right? When you give sadaqah, ask yourself, what is this sadaqah proving within me? And honestly, Imam Siraj Wahaj, may Allah Ta'ala bless him. I mean, America's Imam, right? He can walk into any masjid and he'll be the Imam there.
The real Harlem Sheikh.
Yeah. Even though I don't think he's from Harlem, but subhanAllah, he said something really powerful one time that I love. I'm sure he said it a lot at his fundraisers. He says, give until it hurts. Right? Give until it hurts. And for those of you who you exercise, you have some sort of hobby or some sort of activity where what that means, right? There's always the mental barrier, the limit that you've put, and then there's that zone that's above that really is where true growth happens. Absolutely. And that's what Imam Siraj is saying, right? So even prayer, pray Tarawih tonight. How many pages of Quran are you going to read? How many rak'ats of Tarawih are you going to, I always tell people, you have in mind maybe 4, maybe 8, pray 10, pray 12, right? Add more than you think than you intend on doing. And that's where you're going to see these moments of growth happening. So prove your truth in those moments. Jazakallah khair, Mufti Saab.
And that, y'all pretty much, have stated it literally, the 4th verse. And that's something that's so beautiful about the Quran. The Quran is very it speaks to us. لَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ كِتَابًا فِيهِ ذِكْرُكُمْ. Right? It literally is telling you about yourself. Because if you follow through all the points, believers, hearts shake and tremble. Hearts are affected when God is mentioned. Their faith increases by looking at the signs and listening to the verses of God. They put their trust solely upon their Lord. They establish prayer. They're willing to spend from that which God gave them. It didn't come out of nowhere. It didn't materialize out of thin air. Allah gave it to them. That only leads you to one conclusion. And both of y'all have said it. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ حَقًّا. That's what true faith and iman looks like. لَهُمْ دَرَجَاتٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. They will have very lofty statuses with their Lord. وَمَغْفِرَةٌ, and forgiveness from God. وَرِزْقٌ كَرِيمٌ, and Allah will provide them with a very noble, a very generous, a very gracious sustenance and provision. Allah will provide a lot for them here and there, in this life and in the next. They just have to continue to do the right thing, and they have to continue to have that hope in the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, we when we were talking about putting the program together, we wanted to talk about the Battle of Badr, because today is the day that commemorates the Battle of Badr. It happened on the 17th of Ramadan. But because of the situation and circumstance we're in, we also wanted to kind of reflect on how we can take lessons from Badr and realize them within our own lives, and even in the handling of this particular crisis. And this discussion of these different qualities of having faith and trust in Allah and believing in Allah and reading the Quran and growing in your faith and never stopping and never forgetting to pray, like never stop praying, never forget to pray, continuing to spend in good causes, even throughout this time of difficulty will certainly lead us to salvation and success, inshallah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Any kind of closing thoughts?
I would just say, and I'll go first, Muftab, you can finish off for us. I would just say that there's one thing that, Sheikh, you mentioned, and you told me when we were learning about the Battle of Badr, and that was the idea that the battles themselves became moments of education for the companions, for the Sahaba, for the whole Ummah. And that the famous statement that a lot of scholars have said and have used and kind of beautifully summarized was that this was the battle where they learned what La ilaha illallah truly meant. Right? This is the battle where they truly learned that. Because again, you can say something, but what proves what you're saying is how you feel and what you experience and how you act as a result of that. Beautiful. And so in this battle, all these Sahaba, they've all taken the testimony of faith. They've all accepted with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, La ilaha illallah. What does it mean to believe La ilaha illallah? Well, one of the things, and arguably you could argue one of the great things and the major things, is فَعَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ, is completely putting your trust and reliance and leaning on God, leaning on Him, like you're leaning, like you're sitting on your chair, like you're sitting and you put all of your weight on it because you know that it's going to carry you. So you put all of your weight on Allah, everything in your life, your finances, your health, your family, obviously your faith, first and foremost, everything goes onto Allah. And you do that knowing that He's not going to let you down. Just like when you put your arm up or you lean up against a wall, you have sheer confidence that the wall is not going to fall down. That's why you're putting your weight up on it. And so the companions here, this is when they learned the true meaning of this statement, that we can put everything on Allah. We can put everything on Allah. And truly, there's nobody who deserves worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is where that statement became a realization for them. And I think that that's one of the most powerful lessons for me personally, is that their realization and their recognizing of that, the truth of that statement.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think of Barakallah feek, Ustad. Beautiful, amazing. When I think of Badr, it's a moment for me to reflect and appreciate that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do whatever He wants. You can come as hard as you want to try to knock me down, but you can't unless Allah allows it. And our job as a community is to continue to trust Allah. No matter how bad it looks right now, the first 13 years of Islam didn't look too good. And the Battle of Badr occurs in the second year after migration. For another 2 years, 15 years odd, it didn't look good. But the sun will rise. It will rise. That's a promise of Allah. as long as we remain as true believers. وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. As long as you are true believers, you will always come up. You'll always be on top. Yeah, as my teacher used to say, Allah ke yahan der hai, andher nahi.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a delay in Allah's assistance coming, but don't think that God didn't hear you. Allah heard you. Allah saw you. Allah heard you before you even said it. The moment the thought originated in your mind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was aware of it. فَإِن ذَكَرَنِي فِي نَفْسِهِ ذَكَرْتُهُ فِي نَفْسِي. So the Battle of Badr, it tells me that it's not just a story of victory. It's not just a story of spoils of war and celebration for the Sahaba, a relief. It's a reminder for us all that great battles will come in your life. And prepare yourself. The way you prepare yourself is the way the Sahaba prepared themselves. And it didn't involve much gym going or bodybuilding or lifting, even though those things are all great as a hobby. If you enjoy it, knock yourself out. It involved developing here, building yourself here, have heart. Focus on your tawakkul, your relationship with Allah. And the Allah that helped them in Badr 1400 years ago is that Allah that'll help you today in your home in America. That Allah's mercy will come to you too. The malaika that showed up in Badr, those malaika, Allah will send His malaika. They're His creation. They go by His command wherever He tells them to go. They'll protect whoever He tells them to protect. And they will abandon whoever He tells them to abandon. And that's why the ta'alluq that a servant has with Allah should never waver and should never break. Every day in our life is a moment of Badr for us. Every day in our life is a moment for us to develop those characteristics. And this verse that Sheikh Abdul Nasir brought to our attention today, verse number, I believe it was 2 and 3 of Al-Anfal.
2, 3, and 4 from chapter number 8.
Yeah, 2, 3, and 4 of Surah Anfal. These verses should be at the front because Allah promises so much to believers, and it's as if in these verses Allah defines for us what the heart of a believer looks like.
Very good. Barakallahu feekum. Jazakumullah khairan. I want to really, again, thank everyone for, being patient and observing and watching while we had the hangout and the discussion. And of course, want to thank Ustad and Mufti Kamani, both of y'all, for making time and having a good discussion. And inshallah, I'll catch up with you guys offline, inshallah, in a little bit. All right. Jazakumullah khairan.
Barakallahu feekum, Shaykh.
So we're going to transition over, inshallah, right before I send y'all back to Ustad Ubaidullah. The program is going to continue. Do not go anywhere, inshallah. We have amazing recitations of the Quran, talks and lectures from all of our other instructors. Y'all haven't heard yet from, Ustad Atifa Sharif and Ustad Fatima Let and, Sheikh Muntasir, Mufti Muntasir Zaman and Sheikh Mikael Smith and, the whole rest of the crew, inshallah. So there's a whole lot more to come, inshallah. But before I hand y'all back over to Ustad Ubaidullah to move the program along and to learn a lot more about the day of Badr, the Battle of Badr, the inspiration from the life of the Prophet ﷺ, the power of the Quran and its conviction, and then how we can bring that all into our lives, in the situation that we're in right now, and particularly because of the crisis that the whole world is facing right now. I wanted to take a little bit of time to bring something to your attention. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says in an authentic narration that no prophets were sent between him and Jesus, Isa alayhi salam. There were no prophets sent in between. And revelation, was not preserved. Revelation was not preserved during that time, meaning, unfortunately, a lot of changes and distortions occurred in the revelation. So the revelation was distorted. The world was scattered. 600 years, no prophet, no revelation coming down. The world was plunged into darkness. And it became the darkest place the world has ever been. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought the world back into the light when He opened the gates of the heavens and He sent down His word, Iqra, read. Understand the word of your Lord. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. Because get to know your Lord, understand the word of your Lord, know what the purpose of your life is, and it will change your life and it will change this whole world. And we're sitting here 1400 years later and look at what's transpired all across the world. Islam is everywhere. And that is the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided the salvation, and that is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed humanity to be able to reach the heights that it's been able to reach. Now, that is the cause, that is the mission, that is the goal, that is the objective of Islamic education. When people will know their religion, when people will know their deen, when people will understand the Quran, when people will know who Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is, and they'll know their religion and they'll know how to live their religion, the world will be a different place. It'll be a better place. It'll bring out the best in people. And if people do not have that knowledge, then there will be great suffering. And people will not be able to realize their potential. Qalam as an organization is committed exactly to that mission and that cause, what I just said right there. That we understand and we know that humanity has amazing potential. The ummah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is remarkable. Muslims and believers are amazing people. They can do amazing things. We can change the world. We can make the world a better place. We can bring everyone into the light. But we got to make that knowledge and that understanding of the religion available and accessible to people. Now, who's going to do that? You need dedicated people, committed people, talented people, really passionate people, enthusiastic people to go out there and to make that mission a reality. You heard from Ustad Abdurrahman Murphy. You heard from Mufti Hussein Kamani. You're going to hear from all these other instructors. And you heard recitation from our students. And you're going to hear more later. This is a cause that for over a decade, what this organization has been committed to. From the thousands of hours of free content that have been available on the Qalam podcast for over a decade, to moving on to the intensives, the workshops, the classes that thousands and thousands of people from all around the world have participated in, that they have benefited from, to the seminary. We're full-time. You know, Mufti Kamani and Ustad Abdurrahman and myself and Sheikh Mikhail and Ustad Fatima and everyone that you're going to hear from, we're bringing this online conference to you. We actually got right onto this conference, including Ustad Ubaidullah. We got onto this conference literally minutes after concluding our full-time classes. At Qalam, every day, there are over 100 students, nearly 150 students, studying full-time all week long. Even during this COVID lockdown, we are online in classrooms, online classrooms, virtual classrooms, and we are learning nonstop full-time. And then producing people. Las Vegas, Phoenix, Arizona, Houston, Texas, Austin, Texas, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Staten Island, New York, Baltimore, Maryland, Atlanta, Georgia. You can go all around this country. And then literally every other community in the DFW Metroplex. And there are Qalam graduates and Qalam students that are serving those communities. We committed ourselves that we are going to produce people that are going to be able to benefit and educate their communities. Everyone wants Ustad Abdurrahman Murphy to come to their community. Everyone wants Mufti Hussein Kamani to be in their community. But they can't be everywhere. So we're going to make more of them. We're going to produce more of them. And so all of this work is going on, and this is the work that Qalam is committed to, and we're doing this work on behalf of the community. And you will benefit from this. Your family will benefit from this. Your communities will benefit from this. Your friends will benefit from this. And this is what we have devoted and dedicated ourselves to. And we're going to do this no matter what happens. There's an expression, right? Rain, shine or snow, whatever the expression is, right? Sunshine, rain, snow, whatever. Come hell or high water. No matter what happens, we are going to do this work. What we are asking you as our community, as our partners in this, is to support us and to help us. And we need your support in doing so. We'll be able to reach a whole lot more people. We'll be able to take this word a whole lot further. We'll be able to make a huge impact. We'll be able to increase the quality of the work and even the quantity of the work with your support, with you being a part of this mission and cause. When people work together, when the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when this Muslim community and this Muslim family works together, amazing things can happen. We just talked about the Battle of Badr. They worked together. They were in it together. Sa'ad bin Mu'adh stood and said, "O Messenger of God, we ain't going nowhere. We're with you. We're in this together." And look what happened. Miraculous victory. And so we need to work together in this regard. So I want everyone to donate. Inshallah, if you are watching, you're looking at the screen, you see our campaign that we are presenting before you today. If you go to qalamlive.com, qalamlive.com, you can donate right there live on that page. You can watch the video, so you won't be leaving the program. The video literally is right there, and right next to it, you can donate right there. If you are sitting there watching this with your phone, you can go to qalamlive.com and donate right there. You can go to supportqalam.com and you can donate there as well. But donate right now. Go to qalamlive.com and donate right now. If you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on YouTube, that's great. That's fantastic. That means that you have subscribed to Qalam on YouTube and Facebook, and we are very happy. And our marketing team thanks you profusely. That being said, go on over to qalamlive.com so you can donate, you can participate. Do not be passive. We just talked about the verses from Surah Al-Anfal. They are about being active faith. It is not about passive participation. We are not spectators. Believers are not spectators. Believers are soldiers. Believers are participants. Believers are active. Believers, they take part. And so I'm not going to, kind of hold the program hostage here, but I would at the same time like to borrow 60 more seconds from you very quickly to move it along. Anyone who has already donated, barakallahu fikum, jazakumullah khairan, thank you very much. Anyone who has already donated, you can still donate more. Anyone who has not donated yet, you need to donate in the next minute, inshallah, to have this deed accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are nearing the end of the day. It is the Asr time, the time of the acceptance of prayers. It is the month of Ramadan. Give now, multiply your rewards, have your du'as accepted. And what I want you to do is $1,000. I want to see someone donate $1,000. $1,000 supports a student of knowledge who is studying full-time and puts them through a full class, puts them through a part-time student, which means that they are able to take one track for the entirety of the year, and it supports our full-time students of knowledge who then go back out into the community and benefit people. SubhanAllah, a blessing that we have at Qalam. Half the people that you're going to hear today are actually graduates and beneficiaries of the knowledge Qalam provides, and now are providing knowledge to people. You heard our reciter earlier. That is one of our students, Mustafa. You have been hearing from our host, Ustad Ubaidullah. He is a graduate of Qalam and now teaching at Qalam. Ustad Abdurrahman Murphy is someone who has studied with me for over a decade, for nearly 15 years. And now, mashallah, he's teaching there. You're going to hear from Ustad Fatima, Ustad Atifa. These are all graduates of the work that Qalam is doing. So $1,000, I want someone to go and to donate. $500. If somebody's not able to give $1,000, then donate $500, and inshallah, donate that right now. And of course, if someone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the means, Allah has given you the ability, Allah has given you the potential, the capacity, $6,500. Now, I know that that's a lot to ask for one person to donate, but there are those out there who have that capacity. And if you don't have that capacity, then inshallah, message a bunch of friends, put it in your family WhatsApp group, make a commitment that you're going to sponsor a full-time student of knowledge who is then going to go and benefit. You know, I'll tell you something, and I'll share something very personal with you, and hopefully it'll mean something to you. I have a student, we have a graduate from Qalam who conducts in a different city, a city that I do not live in, and a city that I don't think I have visited in nearly half a decade. And when she teaches classes over there, hundreds and hundreds of women benefit from her classes, teaching them the meaning of the Quran, teaching them the meaning of the life of the Prophet. I've never been there. I've never met those sisters, but I'm benefiting and I'm getting the reward of all of that. That's why we do what we do. And if you contribute and you donate and you sponsor these students, you will be getting the full reward of that as well. So inshallah, please go and donate. Donate now. We really, sincerely request and need your help and your contributions and your donations so that we can continue to do this work. I've taken up enough of your time. I want you all to be able to benefit from the rest of the program and from the remarkable teachers and instructors and scholars that you will hear from, inshallah. So barakallahu feekum, jazakumullah khairan. Thank you very, very much for your patience and for your support. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Abdul Nasser. I'd like to just quickly get the program moving. We're a little bit behind schedule, but that's okay. Alhamdulillah, we've benefited so much from the program so far. I'd like to give a quick introduction for our next speaker, as you can see in this little cool graphic on this side. It's all inverted. Ustadha Fatima Let. She is currently an instructor at the seminary. She has like 17 different jobs. She also works as a resident Ustadha at RCM, Roswell Community in Georgia, as well as the Roots Community in Dallas. How she does this in so many different places, you'll have to talk to her another time. But the remarkable thing specifically about Ustadha Fatima and Ustadha Atfa, who you're going to hear from later, is that both of them are graduates of the Qalam Seminary. Something Sheikh Al-Nasr talks about all the time, almost a very selfish goal, which I think it's okay to be selfish sometimes, is that he has 2 daughters, and they need sisters who will teach them, who can relate to them and speak to them. So Sheikh Al-Nasr made it his mission to train those sisters and develop them and teach them so that they can go out and teach others and motivate others. And Ustadha Fatima Let is part of the first graduating class of the Qalam Seminary.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما. So I'm just going to get started with my section of the Battle of Badr and the story about what transpired during that time. After the Muslims figured out, the situation came together, they knew that they were going to go for battle. The Prophet ﷺ asked everybody, okay, are you guys in? And all of that transpired. Then they figured out exactly where the battle would take place. Once they scoped out the area where the battle would take place, Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, who we talked about actually earlier today, he told the Prophet ﷺ, he came to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he asked him, he said, Ya Rasulullah, shall we find an area, shall we build a tent for you in this area? Like a safe haven, basically. So he asks the Prophet ﷺ that, shall we build a tent for you in this area? And he tells the Prophet ﷺ that this tent that we'll build, this area that we'll build for you, it will be so that you will be kept safe, and that we'll be able to be there on standby, and we'll have people around that area so that they can make sure that they're protecting you, make sure that they're watching you. So Sa'd ibn Mu'adh tells the Prophet ﷺ this, and the Prophet ﷺ agrees. He says, yes, absolutely. You should, yeah, that would be good. And the Prophet ﷺ then makes dua for Sa'd ibn Mu'adh. Now, the night before the Battle of Badr, the night before, or you could say the early morning of the day of the actual battle, the Prophet ﷺ goes to this tent, and he's in this tent, and he's there, and he's now going to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's preparing himself for the battle. Now, Sa'd ibn Mu'adh said that they will have people there to protect the Prophet ﷺ. They will have people there that will protect the Prophet ﷺ. And so the person who was appointed at this time to be to look out for the Prophet ﷺ, to take care of him, was Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And the narration, it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful narration that talks about this dua that the Prophet ﷺ makes the night before the Battle of Badr. But think about the situation. They're going into this battle. They know that they're very underprepared. They're extremely underprepared for the battle. They weren't intending on fighting in the least bit. That was not a part of the plans at all. And a big part of this whole situation was that it was unplanned. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he's going to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. He's going to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. And in the narration, it says, فَاسْتَقْبَلَ Nabiyullahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam al-Qibla, that the Prophet ﷺ went in this tent and he faced the Qibla. ثُمَّ مَدَّ يَدَيْهِ فَجَعَلَ يَهْتِفُ بِرَبِّهِ. Then he extended his hands to the sky and he started to supplicate, he started to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the dua that the Prophet ﷺ makes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so beautiful. He says, Allahumma anjazli ma wa'adtani. He says, Oh Allah, oh my Lord, fulfill for me what you have promised. Make it come true. What you have promised, make it come true. And think about this, as Muslims are now in the Medina period of time. Now they have something to defend. Now they are giving the permission to be able to fight. Okay, they're giving the permission to be able to fight. And they're defending their land. They're defending so many things. And the Prophet ﷺ is standing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he's asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's telling him, please fulfill for me that which you've promised. And then he says, Allahumma ati ma wa'adtani. Oh Allah, give me what you've promised. And then in this last part of the dua, he says, Allahumma in tahlik hadhihi al-isaba min ahli al-islam la tu'bad fil ard. He says, Oh Allah, he's praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, Oh Allah, if you allow this small, humble group of worshipers, of devout believers, this small group of people who have been worshiping you, who have decided to, fulfill their tasks to you, who have decided to answer the call of Islam, to answer the call that the Prophet ﷺ had brought to them. He says that, Oh Allah, if you allow this small group of devout believers to be destroyed and perish in this battlefield, you will not be worshipped on this earth how you deserve to be. And the narration continues and says that the Prophet ﷺ continued to make this dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he continued to raise his hand so high to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come and save the people on the battlefield, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come and save the companions, to the point where his shawl had fell from his shoulders, that he raised his hand so high that his shawl fell from his shoulders. And Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the best friend of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ's right-hand man, the one who's been there with the Prophet ﷺ for a very long time. Sometimes when we read these narrations and we just read off names, we forget that there is so much more to just names, that these are meaningful relationships, meaningful connections. These bonds that they had with each other lasted for years. And so the beauty of it is that Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the best friend of the Prophet ﷺ, the one who made hijrah with the Prophet ﷺ, the one who hid in caves that didn't have enough space for both of them to fit, but somehow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifested for them to fit there. They've been through so much together. Abu Bakr Siddiq comes, he picks up the shawl of the Prophet ﷺ and he puts it on his shoulders. And he embraces the Prophet ﷺ from behind. He takes the Prophet ﷺ into his arms. And he consoles the Prophet ﷺ at this moment. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he knows that there's a lot riding on this, that there are companions that may die, that he doesn't want the entire ummah to get wiped out. There are 313 against 1,000. That the odds are definitely against them. The odds are definitely not in their favor. And so Abu Bakr Siddiq, he grabs the Prophet ﷺ and he tells the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Ya Nabi Allah, O Prophet of Allah. He tells him that you have made enough dua to your Rabb. You have made enough dua, you have called upon your Lord enough. You have really called upon him. That is sufficient, it's good, it's okay. And he tells him that he will fulfill his promise to you. That Allah will fulfill his promise to you. He has fulfilled his promise to you. And in that moment, the verse number 9 from Surah Anfal is revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. إِذْ تَسْتَغِيثُونَ رَبَّكُمْ فَاسْتَجَابَ لَكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when you begged your Lord, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَكُمْ, he answered you. أَنِّي مُمِدُّكُمْ بِأَلْفٍ مِنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ مُرْدِفِينَ. And he said, I will reinforce you with 1,000. I will reinforce you with 1,000 angels in succession. That 1,000 angels will come. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come and he will aid them on the battlefield. And this is the dua that the Prophet made the night before Badr, the early night before / early morning before the Battle of Badr. I pray that we're all able to benefit from what we heard here today. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair, Ustadh Fatima. Next up, we have Sheikh Muntasir. He'll be sharing with us on the topic of glimpses from the actual battle itself and the fall of one of the biggest enemies of the Muslims in Mecca.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to one and all. Jazakumullahu khairan to everyone for participating in today's webinar. The topic that I will be speaking about today is the fall of one of the greatest tyrants in the history of Islam, none other than Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl's role in trying to bring down the message of Islam is known to one and all. But what we need to realize when we study his rise and fall is that he is one individual whose life is demonstrative, indicative of a reoccurring theme before him as well as after him. Studying the lives of Anbiya such as Musa alayhi salam, Dawood alayhi salam, we find a very similar theme. There's someone who has an agenda to bring down the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to cause tyranny and injustice on earth. And to respond to that, Allah paves the way for his followers, for the believers to bring down that tyrant. And the fall of Abu Jahl is no different. So just to put some context into what happened, it was during the Battle of Badr, as we are aware. And as the conflict begins to get heated, the Sahaba are outnumbered, outmanned. They don't have the same weapons and arms to take on the army of the mushrikun. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assists them and eventually they reign triumphant. We know that, right? Allah sends angels and through their assistance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them victory. But specifically, the fall of Abu Jahl is interesting for a number of reasons. First and foremost, what happened? How did he fall? So there are multiple reports on who took Abu Jahl down, but the more famous report is that of Mu'adh and Mu'awwidh, the two young Sahaba who put it upon themselves that he has caused so much harm to the Prophet and his message, we're going to make it a point to bring him down. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf says, when everyone was forming ranks and we're about to march forward, I look to my right and my left hoping to find some support, and I find these two youngsters. And the first thought that comes to my mind is, if something goes wrong, these guys are going to be in no way fit to help me. But then he begins to see their enthusiasm. They asked him, "Oh, uncle, where's Abu Jahl?" And he's thinking like, what are you going to do with that information? And then they explain themselves. And eventually, when the battle ensues, the two of them, they seize the first opportunity. They get onto Abu Jahl, they bring down his animal, and they strike him. And although they didn't give the fatal blow, later on Abdullah ibn Mas'ud comes and he remembers and recalls the conversation he had or what he heard of Abu Jahl's claim that he's going to bring down the army, bring down Islam. And he used this as an opportunity to bring the enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to an end. So he comes and he pins down Abu Jahl, who's already on his final moments. And just to get a glimpse into the takabbur, how vain, how proud Abu Jahl was of himself, at that moment he says, would that someone else take me down? Would it not be on the hands of someone as low as you? And eventually Abdullah ibn Mas'ud removes him and brings him to an end. More important than the fact that one of the greatest threats to Islam was just brought down, it's more about how he was brought down. If Allah wanted, just like the angels were sent to assist the Muslim army, he could have sent an angel to eviscerate Abu Jahl. But instead, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed for his fall to happen on the hands of two young Sahaba and on the hands of someone like Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who Abu Jahl himself considered to be insignificant. And there's so much to speak about there. But very briefly, 3 lessons that inshallah we can derive from this. Number 1, regardless of how powerful you think you are, regardless of how much weight you think you carry, when Allah wants to bring an end to your reign of tyranny, he can do so without any consideration of power. Right? So when we think about Fir'aun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought him down despite his power. When we think about Talut and Jalut, how Jalut was brought down despite his power. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does this time and again for us to reflect and think about how can we not turn a blind eye to that and apply it to our times. And when we think about tyranny, there's a macro level tyranny. You think of an oppressive ruler, a king, doing injustices to his subjects. But then there's a minor form of tyranny that we may be involved in our day-to-day interactions, right? Whether it's me unjustly taking something from someone, being verbally or even physically abusive to those beneath me, or me not being considerate of those who are weaker than me. These are things that are part of tyranny in a very micro level. But I need to make sure that I don't fall under that category either. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought the fall of Abu Jahl on the hands of from those who he least expected it to come from. And then we have Abu Jahl himself, right? A very quick history on Abu Jahl. We know that his original nickname was Abul Hakam. He was the one of wisdom and someone of intelligence. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messenger gives him the kunya, the title of Abu Jahl, because the decisions that he consistently made was a sign of not his intelligence, but of his ignorance. He may have had influence, he may have been extremely wealthy, he may have had acumen, he could have been wise from a very materialistic perspective, but his every decision and choice eventually was meant and targeted towards the message of Islam. His tyranny extended all bounds. So Abu Jahl was brought down after so much harm that he had caused during the entire Meccan phase. He was the one who was the main primary instigator. His only vision and goal was to bring down the message of Islam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala eventually brought him to an end. And the third point, when we think about the fall of a tyrant, and particularly Abu Jahl, is that life is what we would call like a sijal, right? It's like a balancing act. Some battles you win, some battles you lose. Sometimes it may seem things are dark, other times you see the light in the end of the tunnel. Islam in general is also like that. Let us never think for a moment that because people are being oppressed, Islam is being ridiculed, that somehow Allah will allow this beautiful way of life to completely be, to go extinct. Allah will protect this faith. But what's important is, what role will I do in that protection? What can I do to better make Islam viable, practicable by other people so that it doesn't just go forgotten? Nonetheless, in summary, we see the rise of someone like Abu Jahl, who was able to garner support and a following among a crowd already interested in defaming Islam. And then you see how after his many attempts, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings him down instead. And not on the hands of some superpower or in the hands of angels or in the hands of an entire army, but on the hands of people whom he least expected it, but also who during his own final moments he belittled. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ultimately granted success to the Sahaba in the Battle of Badr. And there are many other victories, small and major, that we can derive from the Battle of Badr. But zooming in on the fall of one of the greatest tyrants, we learn a number of lessons that are applicable to us, even though we don't worry about that specific tyrant. Tyranny can take many forms, and the outcome of tyranny is always negative. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, during this blessed month, during this blessed day, during this blessed occasion, allow us to be more reflective and understand what we can do to better deflect or remove any negativity that we may have in our lives, and bring upon ourselves the beautiful life of the Prophet ﷺ as exemplified during the Battle of Badr, but even more broadly throughout his entire message. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, Mufti Muntasir. Moving along, we're trying to wrap this up to cover, to end before iftar time, at least in most parts of the country. So next up, we have Sajid Ibrahim, inshallah. He's going to recite some Quran for us, try to take a little break from, all the different talks and, really get back to what the focus of this month is really, and that is the Quran and connecting with the Quran, listening to the Quran. Just a quick introduction for Sajid. I had the pleasure of actually being one of Sajid's Arabic teachers when he first came to Dallas to study at a really young age. He didn't look like he does now. And now, mashallah, he's, finishing his 4th year of study and inshallah going on to complete his final year of study. And every time I see him, I'm so blown away at, what a little bit of time does, right? He came in, really, it seemed like a long time ago, but that time goes by so quickly. And now, inshallah, in one more year, he'll be completing, our full Alamiya curriculum, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسألونك عن الأنفال قل الأنفال لله والرسول فاتقوا الله وأصلحوا ذات بينكم وأطيعوا الله ورسوله إن كنتم مؤمنين إنما المؤمنون الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم وإذا تليت عليهم آياته زادتهم إيمانا وعلى ربهم يتوكلون الذين يقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون أولئك هم المؤمنون حقا لهم درجات عند ربهم ومغفرة ورزق كريم كما أخرجك ربك من بيتك بالحق وإن فريقا من المؤمنين لكارهون يجادلونك في الحق بعدما تبين كأنما يساقون إلى الموت وهم ينظرون وإذ يعدكم الله إحدى الطائفتين أنها لكم وتودون أن غير ذات الشوكة تكون لكم ويريد الله أن يحق الحق بكلماته ويقطع دابر الكافرين ليحق الحق ويبطل الباطل ولو كره المجرمون إذ تستغيثون ربكم فاستجاب لكم أني ممدكم ب1000 من الملائكة مردفين وما جعله الله إلا بشرى ولتطمئن به قلوبكم وما النصر إلا من عند الله إن الله عزيز حكيم صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah khair, Sajid. Moving along, next we have Ustada Atifa Sharif. As I mentioned, I briefly spoke about Ustada Atifa earlier. She is, a graduate of the first year, of the first batch of the full Alimiya curriculum at the Qalam Seminary. She's someone that's been involved with Qalam from day one. She studied in the first year of the program as well, and she was the first to graduate. She's been there as a TA, and she's been assisting from the very beginning. And while she was continuing her studies at Qalam, she also pursued her master's in psychology with a clinical concentration. So inshallah, we're going to hear from Sada Atifa.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So the topic I'm going to be covering today, inshallah, is the topic of the angels on the battlefield. Some of the scholars had mentioned briefly at the beginning of our session, but I wanted to go into details about some exactly what happened and also lessons that we can learn, inshallah. So some of the ayahs that were recited by Hafiz Mustafa earlier included the ayahs in Surah Ali Imran, and particularly the ayahs, ayah 160, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, sorry, not ayah 160, before that, ayah 124, إِذْ تَقُولُ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَلَنْ يَكْفِيَكُمْ أَنْ يُمِدَّكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ بِثَلَاثَةِ آلَافٍ مِنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ مُنْزَلِينَ, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, telling him, remember when you said to the believers, will you be satisfied if your Lord reinforces you by sending down 3,000 angels? And then in the next ayah he says, بَلَا إِن تَصْبِرُوا وَتَتَّقُوا وَيَأْتُوكُم مِّن فَوْرِهِمْ هَذَا يُمْدِدْكُمْ رَبُّكُم بِخَمْسَةِ آلَافٍ مِّنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ مُسَوِّمِينَ. Well, if you are steadfast and mindful of Allah, of your Lord will reinforce you with 5,000 marked angels if the enemy should suddenly attack you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that happen. He arranged it so. In another ayah, in the ayah that when one of the ayahs that Hafiz Sajid just recited in Surah Anfal, he mentioned Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, and also talking about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam making dua and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. He mentions in number 9 in Surah 8 and says, يَسْتَغِيثُونَ رَبَّكُمْ فَاسْتَجَابَ لَأَنِّي مُمِدُّكُم الْمَلَائِكَةِ مُرْدِفِينَ. When you begged your Lord for help and he answered you saying, I will reinforce you with 1,000 angels in succession. So far in these ayahs, 3 numbers are mentioned, right? So first, 1,000 were promised, 3,000. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, because you are steadfast and mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he sent down 5,000 angels. And each of these different ayahs, different words are mentioned. We're describing the angels. First is munzilin, sent down. Then murdifin, they're sent down back to back continuously. And finally musawimin, they're marked angels. These angels were very particular angels. They were very special angels. These were angels that were fighting, in the army, Muslim army, helping them support. They were part of the miraculous help that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had provided for the believers. It said that the angels, they were in tafsir, it says that the angels, they were riding on black and white horses, they had their war turbans on, they were yellow and white turbans, and they were fighting. And it's also said that basically the Muslims, they would, pull out their swords and pull out their weapons to go attack some of the mushrikun, the Quraysh, and before their swords even hit anybody, the enemy was already dead. The angels took care of it. Later, it's also mentioned in books of books of Sirah, that just like how the people of Badr, and that's something that our teachers will talk about, but just like how the people of Badr had a particular virtue amongst the companions, amongst the Sahaba, so did the angels of Badr have that particular rank and status amongst the rest of the angels. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions in Surah Muddathir, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ جُنُودَ رَبِّكَ إِلَّا هُ. He says in Surah number 74, ayah 31, that no one knows the soldiers of your Lord except him. So this is a miraculous help that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave these, sent down these angels back to back, fighting on behalf of the Muslims. And these were part of the armies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have no idea how vast and expansive the armies of Allah are. So we can ask this question, why is this miraculous blessing been given, right? So, doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have the power to give them victory? Couldn't they have just won the battle without any sort of like means of help? Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have just given them Muslims strength to be able to fight them, and their numbers would have been enough. But why this particular miraculous help that was being given? What was the purpose? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues that ayah in Surah Ali Imran, mentioning the numbers of angels, that there were 5,000, ayah number 126. He says, وَمَا جَعَلَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بُشْرَى لَكُمْ وَلِتَطْمَئِنَّ قُلُوبُكُمْ بِهِ. It was for the purpose of bushra. Bushra is a message of hope, a good news, a congratulations for you believers, and number two, to put your hearts at rest. So the purpose of these angels coming down is for the purpose of hope, instilling hope and good news to the believers, and also for them to have calmness in their heart. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided for the believers on the battlefield at Badr. But we can sit here thinking, well, we're not fighting the battle of Badr. How do we get that good news? How do we get that hope? How do we get that calmness in our heart? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that how we can achieve that same, those same blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our own lives, how we can get that. And he mentions ways that we can get that bushra and that itmitnan throughout the Quran. So in Surah Baqarah, Surah number 2, ayah 97, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that how we can at least, get that goal of bushra, that message of hope. He says, قُلْ مَنْ كَانَ عَدُوًّا لِجِبْرِيلَ فَإِنَّهُ نَزَّلَهُ عَلَىٰ قَلْبِكَ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ وَهُدًى وَبُشْرَى لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. That same word bushra is being used to describe the Quran, saying that whoever is an enemy to Jibreel, it is none but he who has brought the Quran down upon your heart, O Muhammad, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, confirming that which was before it, and as a guidance and a news of good hope for the believers. So if we want to have good hope, bushra in our lives, have a relationship with the Quran, engage with the Quran. Through the Quran is how we can receive our bushra. Secondly, in terms of that itmitnan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it in Surah Ra'd, Surah number 13, ayah 28. He says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَطْمَئِنُّ قُلُوبُهُم بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. Right, those who have believed and whose hearts are assured by the remembrance of Allah, unquestionably by the remembrance of Allah, that dhikr of Allah, our hearts have that itmitnan, our hearts assured. So through dhikr, through the remembrance of Allah, we can have that peace in heart, that peace and contentment in our heart. And finally, right, the ayah in Surah Al Imran finishes up that reminding us of where that help comes from. It comes only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember that help only comes from Allah. وَمَن نَصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَكِيمِ. Help only comes from Allah, the Almighty, the Wise. Okay, and he further on in the surah in ayah 160, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, In yansurukumullahu fala ghaliba lakum wa in yakhdhulkum faman dhal ladhi yansurukum min ba'di wa 'ala Allahi falyatawakkalul mu'minun. If Allah should help you, if He should provide His nasr, right, the nasr, the help that He provided the Muslims on the battlefield of Badr, if you were to get that aid, then no one can overcome you. And if He should let you go, forsake you, then who's going to be able to help you after that? And upon Allah let the believers rely. So there's a couple of take-home points that I want you guys to get from this aspect of this miraculous help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He provided the Muslims on the battlefield. That one is rely only on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That will get you the help that you need from Allah. Engage with the Quran. That will allow you to have that assurance and the good news. And number 3, keep your tongues moist with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that will allow your heart to have peace and comfort. And then inshallah you will be a recipient of the miraculous help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to close off, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us all to be recipients of this miraculous help in every single day of our lives. Jazakumullahu khairan. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, Sada Atifa. Next up, we have our final session of the conference, inshallah, and that is with Sheikh Mikhail Smith. Many of you have been benefiting from his daily morning recitation of adhkar, and so he's inshallah going to share with us on the topic of the virtues of the people of Badr and what Badr means.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I pray everyone is doing well, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to bless you with all the blessings that He has given you and increase them in more, inshallah ta'ala. I want to thank everyone for taking out time to be with us from around the world and in our country here as well, for joining us and giving us a moment of your time in this blessed month of Ramadan. Truly, this is very, very precious time, and for you to spend it with us, it means so much to us, inshallah ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, Qalam Institute is about accessible knowledge. All this month, we have been giving you content and content and content, program after the next. Why? Because we want لِتَكُونَ كَلِمَةُ اللَّهِ الْعُلْيَا. We want the word of Allah to be the highest. And the way it becomes the highest is by elevating it, lifting it in the hearts of people so that they know Allah and they know the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. But we need your help. We need your help. If you're listening to this session, we need your help. We need you to go to qalamlive.com and support what we're doing. And supporting what we're doing is about building scholarship in America that understands the context of America and understands what is needed to promote Islam in this beautiful country, so that all of my family members who are not Muslim will see the reality of La ilaha illallah and know what Islam is all about, inshallah ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, I want to share with you just a few more points on the Battle of Badr. And I'm specifically going to speak to you about the virtues of the Ashabul Badr, the virtues of those who were present in the Battle of Badr. Once Gabriel, it's narrated by Imam Zurqani in his Sharh of Mawahib al-Laduniyya, he says that Gabriel once said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that how do you hold or how do you view the people amongst you who were present in Badr? The Prophet ﷺ said, we hold them in the highest of positions. They're elevated. They are high level. And Gabriel said to him something that's so deep. He said, this is the same way we look at the angels who were present at Badr as well. So the angels that were present, they also have a higher maqam or status as the people of Badr amongst all the other Sahaba. Why is it that the Sahaba of Badr have such a high status? Such a high status that, you know, the Prophet ﷺ is narrated to have said in one narration, Umar bin Khattab narrates that the Prophet ﷺ said, لَعَلَّ اللَّهَ اطَّلَعَ إِلَى أَهْلِ بَدْرٍ فَقَالَ اعْمَلُوا مَا شِئْتُمْ فَقَدْ وَجَبَتْ لَكُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. Hatim ibn Abi Balta, he's a Sahabi that made a slight mistake. You know, he made a slight mistake, and he was sending a letter to some of the people in Mecca to let them know about what was about to go down in Mecca. And I don't have time to tell you the whole story, but he did it because he was worried about something, not because he had any real malicious intent against the Muslims. And when he did that, the letter was found. The Prophet was informed by revelation. He sent Ali radiallahu anhu and a few to go and get the letter. They got the letter. They brought it back. When they brought the letter back, Umar bin Khattab saw the letter. He was irate. He was upset. How could this happen? Da, 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 da. He's going on. And the Prophet said, Umar bin Khattab, no, wait, hold on. This man is a Badri Sahaba. He's a Badri Sahaba, and he said these words, which I just said to you. He said, لَعَلَّ اللَّهِ, perhaps it may be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has looked at all of the participants of Badr, and he has said to them, اعملوا ما شئتم, do whatever you will. Do whatever you want. فَقَدَ وَجَبَتْ لَكُمْ جَنَّةٌ, because Jannah has become wajib for you, necessary for you. It's yours. I ask you, brothers and sisters, to reflect. What is it about Badr that gave them such a position that the Prophet ﷺ could say such strong words about them? And it's none other than sacrifice at a time when everyone else wasn't ready to sacrifice. The Sahaba of Badr, they were sacrificing wealth, they were sacrificing sweat, they were sacrificing blood, they were sacrificing their families, everything for the sake of Islam, so that everyone could know La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. But they were sacrificing at a time when it wasn't popular to sacrifice. They were sacrificing at a time when the outcome wasn't known. Many times we look at Badr, brothers and sisters, and we look with hindsight, and we're like, yeah, you know, Fatih Mecca is coming in 8 years. That wasn't known at that time. There was yaqeen, there was hope, but there were many people amongst the munafiqeen and the hypocrites that were like, Islam is going to be wiped out in a few months. This is a temporal thing. This is going to go away soon. And when all of those statements were being said, this is going to go away soon, they're going to be smashed by everyone, they're not going to, you know, this isn't going to last long. At that time, there were some people who had the foresight and tawfiq given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to look deep. And those people were blessed, and they said, you know what? This is a true message from Allah, and this is a true messenger from Allah. And I want to be on the right side of history. I want to be on the right side of history. And what does it mean to be on the right side of history? It means to sacrifice when other people weren't sacrificing. It means to be able to have the foresight to know that I need to invest in the things that are going to be good for my community. And brothers and sisters, I am here today because we need your help. Qalam Institute needs your help today. We need donations for us to keep going and doing everything that we're doing, letting children learn about Islam, letting young Muslims learn about Islam, letting teenagers learn about Islam in a way that comes to them so that they understand it, they can comprehend it, they can embody it, and most importantly, they can live it. And when they live Islam, they're spreading Islam. And when we're spreading Islam, we're doing the work of all of the Anbiya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in order for Qalam to keep going, we need your support. We have a full-time institution that if you go on YouTube, you can see the walkthrough that I've done before. We have students that have come from all over the country full-time to learn and study so that they can go back to their communities and be leaders, be du'at, affecting other people in the community. And subhanAllah, there are many people who have completed and now are in different communities working, doing amazing work, alhamdulillah. But it's not, we can't do it without your help. We can't do it without your help. And it's so different this year because coronavirus, brothers and sisters, has made it so difficult for every type of nonprofit organization. And so we have to come to you virtually. Me from my office at home. You are listening in your living room. We're not in the masajid. But I know and I believe that community still exists in our community, in American Muslims, and in Muslims around the world. We have community, we have the ummah. And what that means is when one part of the ummah needs help, the rest of the ummah comes to support us. And so brothers and sisters, now is the time in this blessed month of Ramadan on the anniversary, so to speak, of sacrifice, on the anniversary of sacrifice and commitment to a cause when no one else believed in the cause, we are coming to you. We are coming to you asking you, help us. Help us. Help us spread Islam. Help us educate and reform du'at for the community. Help us create a community that can understand the context of America, understand the context of where they're living, and spread the message of Islam within that context, brothers and sisters. The Sahaba of Badr, brothers and sisters, as we've been listening for the last hour or so, the Sahaba of Badr, they have the highest maqam. They have the highest position. And I've explained that primarily was due to that sense of sacrifice. Now, sacrifice is interesting because for the one looking in at the one making the sacrifice, sometimes it looks like a very, very monumentous and great sacrifice. But for the one who's actually making the sacrifice, many times it's just common sense. Many times it just makes sense that this is what needs to happen. And what we need to realize is that if we want Islam in America, if we want our children, I have 3 young ones myself, and I need teachers and scholars who will be able to educate them, who will be able to teach them about the Prophet ﷺ, who will be able to teach them fiqh and tafsir and aqidah and all of these different branches. But if we don't make the scholars today, if we don't make the female leaders of today, when will we make those leaders for my children to be taught who are 7 years old, 5 years old, and 3 years old? If you haven't noticed, brothers and sisters, Qalam is trying to lead the country in creating female scholarship that understands the context of this country, but understands the tradition as well. And then for us to do that, brothers and sisters, we need your support. Our daughters need sheikhas, ustadas, and teachers that will be able to teach them. And that's what Qalam is doing. We're building that next generation of community leaders from all around the country, brothers and sisters. And so we need you to believe in the message. We need you to believe in the message. And the message is accessible knowledge for all. Accessible knowledge for all. That is the message. And if you believe that Islamic knowledge should be accessible to all, if you believe that every demographic within our country and around the world should have access to Islamic education, if you believe that a time has come for scholars to understand deeply the context of America and communicate that message, if you believe in all of those things, brothers and sisters, then you believe in Qalam. You believe in Qalam, and you believe in what Qalam is all about creating scholarship. Brothers and sisters, it's through Qalam that I was able to publish my most recent book, With the Heart in Mind. And it's all about empathy at its core. It's about understanding other people and connecting to other people. Throughout this month of Ramadan, you've seen how we at Qalam have been trying to connect to you. We have been trying to connect to your children with our programs on Sunday mornings. We have been trying to connect to your teenage children with our programs specifically for them. We have been trying to connect to your daughters and your family with the classes that Ustada Atifa and Ustada Fatima have been doing. We have been trying to connect to the entire family with the emotional intelligent classes. We have been trying our best to connect to you. We need your help now. We need you to reach out. And even if you've given, I know a lot of you listening have already given, brothers and sisters, but we haven't reached our goal yet, and we need more. Our goal is 25,000, as you can see on the screen right now. We're almost halfway there. We're getting closer as the screen refreshes, but we need you to dig deep and show us that you believe. that you believe that what we're doing is good for the community and that you believe in spreading this message across the country. Brothers and sisters, we have a student. We have a few students at Qalam that hold a very special place in my heart because the sacrifices that they go through. All of our students at Qalam go through immense sacrifice. And that's one of the reasons why we need your help for scholarships. There are students that have given up everything to try to study full time, managing a family, taking care of their mother, their parents, but nonetheless trying to study. And it is so difficult when someone desires to study full time, but they don't have the means and you don't have the means. It reminds me of the time when the Prophet ﷺ is going for Tabuk and certain Sahaba were coming to ask for rides because Tabuk was so far. Imam Zarqani says you needed 2 rides just to get there. And they would come to the Prophet and they would ask him for help. تَوَلَّوْا وَأَعْيُنَهُمْ تَفِيضُ مِنَ الدَّمْءِ. He would say, I don't have it for you. We want to be an institution that always has the doors open for every single person that wants to learn the deen, regardless of how much they have in order to pay for that. Many of these students need not just scholarships to open the books and sit in the classes. They need scholarships to live, to have food for that month or that year while they study the deen. I have example of brothers who have come to the community to learn. But how are they going to pay their rent when they're studying? How are they going to pay for food and all of these things? And that's where Qalam comes in and says, you know what? Don't worry about that. We got you. We'll help you on that end. You just dedicate yourself to studying the deen. You just dedicate yourself to learning. We got you. So we need you, we need you to come through and support one student. $6,500 a year will support one student. And we can make sure that that money gets to a student that is zakat eligible. So if you have the means, brothers and sisters, we are coming to you, brothers and sisters. I've helped other organizations, but you don't understand. This is something I hold deep in my heart and believe in with every ounce of blood in my body. I have dedicated my life to educating and teaching people La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. I can't go forward with that unless you help. We can't go forward and do that unless you help. Helping the students that come through the door that want to learn but don't have the means. Many times, brothers and sisters, I'm going to speak specifically. Many times it's brothers and sisters from the inner city demographic where I'm from that want to come and learn the deen but don't have the means to do it. And when we have the money allocated for them to come, I'm able to educate the demographic that I'm from in my own community, the inner city. It was me. I'm going to tell you a personal story, brothers and sisters. When I accepted Islam back when I was 18 years old, I want you to know how influential you can be in someone's life. When I was 18 years old, I accepted Islam. And I used to just go to the masjid, just go and sit in the masjid. There was a brother. There was a beautiful young man. He kept seeing me in the masjid. He'd see me in this masjid. He'd see me in that masjid. He kept seeing me in all of these different masajid in the same city, of course. And so one day, after like 3 days of seeing me, he goes, you know, what's your name? I said, my name is Mikael. How long you been Muslim? Oh, I've been Muslim for about a month and a half now. It's like, man, mashallah, you're always in the masjid. You should go study deen. You should go study the deen somewhere. And I said, like every other convert, I would love to study the deen. I would love to study the deen, but where am I going to study the deen at? Where is that going to happen? And if I find the place, how am I going to pay for it? He said, don't worry, come with me. He took me to one of the local madrasas, which at that time was one of the largest madrasas in the country. I didn't even know. I was right there. And he brought me there. He helped me fill out an application, all of these things. I got accepted. And then the next thing came. And this is where I want everyone to understand. I said to him, I said, I'm accepted, but I have to pay the tuition. I have to pay the room and board. I don't have that type of money. So he talked to his mother. And his mother said, what? He's going to study the deen? He's going to be memorizing Quran? We'll take care of him first year. We'll take care of it. And she gave roughly $5,000 or something, and she supported my education for the first year. Alhamdulillah, in the first year, I learned how to read Quran. I learned maybe one juz of Quran, but I learned how to be a Muslim. The second year came around, and I went to this brother. I said, it's time for tuition again. It's time. What am I going to do? He said, don't worry, my mother's got you for another year. In another year, in another year, in another year. Brothers and sisters, I spent over 12 years to 13 years from that first year to my final year studying. And someone said, I'm going to take care of the cost of that. I'm going to support that. And then my teachers began to support me. My own teachers began to support me. Brothers and sisters, whenever I see Tamer, that's his name, I say to Tamer, Tamer, I can never catch you in good deeds. I can never catch you in good deeds because every single deed I do, you get the reward for. So how could I ever catch you? Because you get your deeds and you get my deeds. What I need you to understand is you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to sponsor a student of knowledge that will go out and teach hadith, Quran, seerah, akhlaq, all of these things to multiple people, hundreds of people, thousands of people. Invest, brothers and sisters. Invest. Invest. So we're almost halfway at our goal, brothers and sisters, and I'm not going to go too much over time. I need you to understand, brothers and sisters, that even when we're done with this this conference, we still need your help. And so even after we log out, I know we're almost at halfway, brothers and sisters. I know we can push forward. And if there's anyone that can support 1 or 2 students of knowledge, or if you know someone who can support 1 or 2 students of knowledge, brothers and sisters, we need you to come through. We need you to come through and help us at this moment so we can continue to support the students that come to us, brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters, we need your help. We need your support. Think about the sacrifice of the Sahaba of Badr. Think about understanding and you believing in what we do. Accessible knowledge for the entire community, bringing programs to you, brothers and sisters. Go to qalamlive.com while you watch, and you can donate to everything that we're doing right now, brothers and sisters. We're going to stay on live, inshallah, for a few more moments, inshallah. Please come through, help us out. Pass this on to other people in the community as well. Pass this out to other people. Let other people know what's going on. Maybe a lot of the community may not be aware of what's going on right now. They may not be seeing this, our fundraiser right now. Please go on WhatsApp, go on social media right now. Take a screenshot, share what's going on. Let other people know what's going on so that they can help us be a part of change in people's lives and connecting and creating the community leaders of tomorrow that will educate my children and that will educate your children bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your generous contributions, brothers and sisters. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for spending time with us, listening to us. Just think about the status of the Sahaba of Badr. What got them there was sacrifice. We have to embody that sense of sacrifice within our lives as well, brothers and sisters. I pray that Allah continue to bless you, bless our community. We ask you for your du'as. We ask you for your du'as, brothers and sisters. Make du'a for Qalam. If you make du'a for Qalam, that helps us get to our goal, inshallah ta'ala. So make du'a for us that we can keep pushing through and inshallah, please spread the word to others, inshallah ta'ala. I'm going to pass it back over to Ustad Ubaidullah, inshallah ta'ala. Again, I thank you very much for your time, brothers and sisters. Jazakumullahu khair. Don't forget to support us, spread the word so that we can keep doing the work, inshallah ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Barakallahu feekum. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Mikael.
No, thank you, inshallah. I appreciate it.
So just wanted to close today's program by just going over a few things. First and foremost, I just wanted to reiterate some of the things Sheikh Mikhail mentioned. This work that we all do, I want to tell you a little bit about the group that does this. I've been working at Qalam now. This is kind of my second year is coming to a close. And, I joined a team that is just very passionate about serving. And really, that's something that Sheikh Abdul Nasser, from the very beginning, whenever we studied, there was always an emphasis on learning and serving. And this is a group of people that's very, dedicated to serving, is very capable in what they are doing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, facilitated and allowed for us to serve together and serve through this institution. And, and that's why we ask for your support, is to support the work, support the service, and so that you can have a share in that as well. And I always say this at the beginning of all the classes that I teach, that for me, the classes that I teach, those introductory classes, I'm very selfish, right? I teach like Arabic in year one. I teach, learning how to read the Quran. And I very openly state my intentions, very selfish intentions. And that is that anything those students do, you saw Sajid earlier in the broadcast, I taught him like verb conjugations, right? Like something that is so, seems so basic, but now whatever he does, as long as he keeps studying, I'll have a share in that because I was part of his journey, right? Similarly, when another class that I teach, which is, teaching people how to read the Quran, reading letters, again, a very selfish motive that I share at the beginning of the class, very kind of transparent. And that is, anytime they read the Quran, hopefully after that, I'll have some share in that. And I know that sounds, almost like is super selfish, but it's the reality. We're all trying to get to Jannah. We're all trying to, contribute as much as we can. And that's what we're asking you all to do today. And that is contribute so that you can have a share in that as well. Because the work will go on. As Sheikh Abdul Nasser mentioned, we're going to keep doing this because this is what we're passionate about. This is what we're, alhamdulillah, pretty good at. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gathered us and allowed us to do this. So we're going to keep doing it as long as we can. And your support, what it does, it adds you to that pile of people that is hopefully going to get a share of that reward, the share of anything good that comes out of this. So please do your best to support if you can. One of the ways that you can support us, and I just want to share, is really by taking advantage of the programs that we offer. So I want to just quickly show you a schedule of the programs that we offer. If you take a look on the screen now, you'll see this. You'll see a list of all the programs that we're offering in Ramadan. There's something for every day of the week. I'm just going to highlight a few of these very quickly. Every day to start off the day, I know in Ramadan start off at 10 a.m. sounds kind of ridiculous, but it is 10 a.m. It's like Muslims start off your day, right? Which is 10 a.m. And normally, like people that work in like corporate America are like, you guys can do this, but we still have to go to work at 8 a.m. But everyone's kind of home right now. So 10 a.m. start time, little relaxed start time to the day. There's morning supplication and Adhkar with Sheikh Mikhail, and he's doing this every day. Then there's different classes offered throughout the week. I'm just going to highlight a few. There's, a Seerah class for kids that Sister Khadija is teaching. There's a class for teens that's being taught by, I can't really read this all that well. Class for teens being taught by Ustada Fatima and Imam Herbert. There's classes on emotional intelligence that Sheikh Mikhail mentioned that he teaches. I teach a class on Tuesdays that I just mentioned, which is learning how to read the Quran. And again, all of these classes are offered for free. We are just, the objective behind all of these is to continue to serve no matter what our circumstances. Things are different, the world looks different, but if we can continue to serve, if we can benefit people in some capacity, we want to try to keep doing that. And we want to try to benefit every kind of person that's out there. You'll see programs on here for kids, you'll see programs on here for teens, you'll see programs on here for beginner levels, people who haven't had it, like my class that I teach on Tuesdays. If you haven't had the opportunity to learn how to read the Quran, and many years have gone by, it's been a goal of yours, you can jump in now. Even though the class has already started, for all of these classes, you can still join, and all the recordings of the previous classes will be available to you. And I just want to show you one last thing, kind of how do you get to this page and how do you, access these classes. So if you go to, sorry, I'm like trying to share a bunch of things at once. If you go to qalamlive.com, which is also the page that we're asking you to go to, to contribute, if you go to qalamlive.com, you'll see this window here, and you click check out our free Ramadan resources. From that button, you'll go to somewhere, to this page, Ramadan resources, and there's the flyer of all the different programs that are going on. There's register now for free online courses. Subscribe to our Telegram channel. That's the best way to get updated information. And then you can always access our live programming on YouTube or many other platforms. Jazakallah khair. Thank you for joining us. I know we're just nearing time for iftar. For those of you that are about to break fast, this is a blessed time to make dua. As Sheikh Mikhail mentioned, if you're not able to contribute with your wealth, that's okay. Other ways that you can contribute would be by taking advantage of the programs, sharing the programs with anyone that you think might benefit from them, right? If you're enjoying them and they're completely free, share it with someone else, encourage them to take the class as well. Because ultimately what we want as many people to benefit as possible. And as I mentioned at the beginning, that just means that we'll kind of have a part of whatever good that they achieve through that information and through that knowledge. So today, please, at the time of iftar, which is a blessed time for dua, please, at the least, if you can't do anything else, please make dua for the work that we're doing. Pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitates it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to continue. And know that the dua that you're making, it's not something small. It's something great. Many places in the Quran, as we've been reciting on a nightly basis, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights the power of dua, and it seems like something small to us because we almost think of it that way, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never talks about dua as something small. It's something great. It's a tool that you have, and the more conviction that you have and the more trust in Allah that you have, you will see the fruits of that. So please make dua for us, and I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to benefit from these last, few days really of Ramadan. We're past the halfway mark, and please join us tonight for the Ramadan recitation and reflection. Jazakallah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.